I think at the Energy Summit, one of the speakers said that out of 600 million people in the region, 140 million people still have no access to electricity. So what can governments do in order to maybe improve the price and also increase access? What about the Trans-ASEAN project?
I think we have, Pihin Yasmin here from Brunei. He and other ministers from ASEAN, we meet every year to look at the kind of things that we are doing at a national level, at a sub-regional level, meaning amongst a group of ASEAN countries, and of course at the whole of ASEAN level about what we can do in terms of the development of the energy sector and of course accessibility for people. I would say though, at the very basic level, it is a national policy issue because each country has to work out what its strategy is to ensure access for electricity, to power, to energy, and also to water, and how they're going to facilitate that. And that's where I think the role that we can play internationally, especially from a Singapore perspective, would really come first in terms of sharing whatever expertise that we have that is relevant for other countries in terms of what we've been doing to develop our energy infrastructure. And the second thing would be our companies also going out to provide solutions. And some solutions are very large system level solutions they need to provide. Other solutions are very local. Sometimes you don't need very elaborate solutions for application in markets that are at a very early stage of development. There's a concept called the bottom of the pyramid, where there are many, many hundreds of millions of people who may not be able to pay a lot, but they are prepared to pay some for a certain kind of product or service. So a very good example of that, if I can use another industry example, is shampoos. In the context of most cities, we buy shampoos in bottles, big bottles, and some with a dispenser or whatever, and all those things, right? It's all very elaborate. If you take that same model and you go and try and sell that in a developing country in a rural area, most people would not, for a variety of reasons, they would not be able to buy it. Most importantly, the cost is too high. So many companies, what they do then is they find different solutions. And one very important example of this is they come up with shampoo sachets. So little packets with just one dose, if you like, for a shampoo. And what that does is people who previously could never buy are now able to buy and able to use it. And so, it's within their means, and then they use it, and then over time they develop their market share. So the same logic could apply to energy as well. Some solutions are at a national and infrastructure level. Some solutions may be a lot more localized. You need solutions which could be solar based, and it provides a very local solution, meets an immediate need in the area. I remember reading, it was quite funny, actually not reading, I saw this. One of the very innovative ideas that someone came up with, this was in India. In India, rail travel is very common. And of course, people want to be on their phones, but you don't have their trains don't have the charging infrastructure, not all of them anyway. So what happens? So this chap came up with a very innovative idea. He came up with a little, like a small mini windmill, He plugs it into his phone and he sticks it out of the train. And so it spins as the train's moving and he charges his phone. And then he works on it. Would you do this in Singapore? Our MRT doesn't really allow for that. But it's a very clever example. It's a very practical solution to a very local need. It will work in that context and it makes a lot of sense for them. So I think that's the kind of thing. I mean, you need ideas, clever ideas to, basically permeate different parts of the market.
And I mean, you definitely need young people for these ideas. Maybe in closing, let's still stick to a more regional and international context. One of the presenters earlier talked about harmonization. Can we come together as a region? So what do you think is the most exciting thing? What is your vision for the region and for Singapore maybe not as far as 2060. Let's think about maybe 2030.
I think, and in a way, I just want to pull this together. I would say the most important thing is we all have different needs, and we are different, types of economies and so on in the region. But there is scope to collaborate. One area, for example, is just give you off the top of my head an example. We can cooperate across countries in how we look for or how we purchase gas. For example, it may be a possibility. If several countries in the region are gas buyers, some countries in the region are gas sellers, is there a way to create a market that will help us also within the region create a more efficient market? So that's one example. But I think the most important thing is that we have systems that are policies that can work together. Harmonization, I think one of the points made I think it was the RGS presentation, or the NJC one, was on harmonization of energy efficiency standards. It was the NJC one. And I thought that was an important point because we have our standards, and in general, there are things that we can learn from each other in the region and make sure that there's a certain common element. Because if there is a common standard, what it means is if I'm an appliance manufacturer, I don't just make it for Singapore, I make it for a market of 500 million or 600 million in ASEAN, and everybody has the same standard, and that makes sense for everybody. So those are the kinds of things that we are working on through the ASEAN Economic Community and some of the other specific initiatives that we have. I just want to wrap it up by saying, I really appreciated the questions, and I thought your presentations were very good. The only parting short request I have is, this is not about top-down or bottom-up. This is about working together, if you like. We have to look at it from the angle of economic competitiveness, but also environmental sustainability and ultimately energy security. We need these three things to come together to make sure that we continue to have a viable and effective energy system in Singapore. So all of you have a role to play. We've talked a lot about it. Happy to talk about it some more. But please pass the word around and get more people excited. Thanks. Thank you very much.